Hopewell Furnace, a force no more. Welcome to Hopewell Furnace, one of the longest running blast furnaces of all time. Founded by Mark Bird in 1771, this now historic site started out as a small iron-making community. Throughout the early history of the United States, iron was in large demand to make products like guns, cannonballs, railroad tracks, and iron stoves, which were Hopewell's signature product. The first practice of iron making began thousands of years ago. Mr. Bird decided that the area of Berks County was an ideal place to set up a furnace because of the natural resources that were in the area, including vast woodlands, iron ore, fast-moving water, and limestone. It wasn't long before a thriving community flourished at Hopewell Village. Running Hopewell's cold blast furnace required a large number of workers. The collier was a very important worker because he made the charcoal fuel that powered the furnace. This small bushcraft hut you see here was where the collier and his group of 2 to 3 men would live while tending to the burn pits. Burn pits were large, circular, cone-shaped piles of different kinds and sizes of woods. The furnace went through approximately 7,000 cords of wood a year to make the charcoal. This required that 200 acres of woodlands were cut each year, so it should be no surprise that the woodcutters were the largest number of employees at Hopewell. Approximately 30 cords of wood would make 1,100 bushels of charcoal. Hopewell's cold blast furnace used about 800 bushels of charcoal each day. This was a huge expense for the furnace and required abundance of woodlands. The colliers carefully constructed pits and then set them afire to smolder for up to 2 weeks. The job of a collier was extremely dangerous because in order to see if the charcoal was ready, he had to jump the pit and could easily fall through into the incinerating heat below. So that not only the job of the collier was very dangerous, it was very expensive and time-consuming process. With the invention of the anthracite furnace, which was fueled by coal, fuel sources were more abundant, far cheaper and easier to acquire compared to charcoal. These are the remains of a once very large charcoal-making building. In an attempt to modernize the operation, this new way of making charcoal was supposed to be much faster than the normal burn pit. This new method failed and Hopewell was back to the expensive, time-consuming, and dangerous method of charcoal production. Anthracite hot blast furnaces began springing up around the surrounding area and county, producing more iron faster and cheaper than Hopewell's cold blast furnace. The structure you are looking at now is where the freshly made charcoal was cooled and stored. The walls were coated with a reddish-orange fireproof material you see here. The shed was prone to fire, which could be catastrophic if all the charcoal was lost, resulting in a shutdown of the furnace. With the anthracite furnace, the loss of fuel due to fire was less of an issue. Now, step into the shoes of a filler, the workhorse of a furnace. What you see now is what a filler would see 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. A filler's job was probably one of the hardest jobs at Hopewell and one of the most important. Their job was to constantly feed the mouth of the furnace with a perfect amount of charcoal, fossil ore, and limestone. If the filler adds incorrect amount of any of these materials, the quality of the iron suffers and the furnace loses money. Without their skills and hard work, there would be no iron production. However, one of the problems with the method of iron making was that many of the fillers died young because of the back-breaking work and the exposure to harsh gases. Although the anthracite furnace still required fillers to feed the furnace, fewer were needed and the job was easier because the anthracite furnace required less raw materials to produce the same quality and quantity of iron. As a result, the cost to operate anthracite furnaces was lower than Hopewell's cold blast furnace. Park Ranger Christine Hawthorne comments on the differences in quality of iron produced by Hopewell's cold blast furnace and the more modern, cost-efficient anthracite furnace.
Anthracite iron furnaces were better at producing iron because they could produce iron higher in quality. The anthracite coal had a higher carbon content instead of the charcoal because it's made from wood.
Yeah.
So it actually made better iron. And that's one of the reasons why Hopewell furnace shut down, is because the charcoal furnaces of the time period couldn't keep up with the modern technologies.
Hopewell furnace relied on a number of natural resources, another of which was water. In order for the furnace to operate, it needed a constant flow of water, which was provided by a nearby creek. Imagine yourself in 1824, standing face to face with this 12-foot tall, 22-foot diameter breast-shot water wheel that could turn hundreds of pounds of torque needed to pump air into Hopewell's cold blast furnace. However, there was a costly flaw in Hopewell's operation. In the winter, the creek, which provided the water to power the wheel, would freeze up, causing the furnace to shut down temporarily, but ice cutters were hired to cut through the ice and restore water flow. Ice cutters were paid approximately $1 a day for their work, which was considered a good wage back in the 1800s. Their problem with the water wheel was that it needed constant refurbishing. The combination of water and wind would rot out the wood planks, causing the furnace to shut down the operation for several weeks while repairs were made. With the invention of the anthracite furnace, all of these problems were eliminated. Hopewell reacted to the anthracite's hot blast furnaces, more efficient and cost-effective method of iron production, when Dr. Charles M. Clinigan, the iron master at Hopewell, ordered the construction of an anthracite furnace at Hopewell in 1853. This reaction to more modern iron-making processes was Hopewell's attempt to modernize the operation to avoid bankruptcy and ultimately the closure of the furnace. The anthracite furnaces in eastern Pennsylvania were producing higher quality iron faster and cheaper than Hopewell. Hopewell had to react to the modernization of iron production or risk being left behind. The piece of amazing penmanship you see before you is the ironmaster's log at Hopewell, which details some of the notes regarding the construction of the anthracite furnace at Hopewell. You are looking at the ruins of the largest leap to modernize Hopewell furnace. These stones are what are left of a once 100-foot tall anthracite furnace. This new addition could have saved Hopewell furnace, but unfortunately, the anthracite furnace operated for only 4 short years. There were 2 main issues. The first was the back of the wall sandstone kept melting out due to incredible heat given off by the anthracite furnace. A letter from Mr. Brooke Buckley, part owner of Hopewell, spoke of the poor quality of the iron the anthracite furnace produced, and the fact that the furnace could only run for 24 hours due to the extreme heat.
You tell that last week the furnace made about 54 tons of number 3 iron, and the hind breast is so warm that you can use it only 24 hours at a time. Still, it is no object to make iron very fast, but as the cost of making it is in proportion to the quantity made per week, so we should do all we can. There is no sale for pig iron at any prices in the market as to the sale of run-out iron. I'm not surprised that we could not sell it.
The second problem was that although the anthracite furnace ran on more efficient coal fuel, it turned out it cost too much money to ship the coal from the Allegheny Mountains to Hopewell. In the end, Hopewell Furnace's attempt to modernize its iron-making process was unsuccessful, and the owners of Hopewell built an anthracite furnace closer to the coal fuel sources. Hopewell continued to run its cold air blast furnace for many years, despite not being able to achieve production levels equal to its anthracite competitors. Ultimately, Hopewell's reaction to the insurmountable costs and outproduction by the anthracite furnaces led to the closure of the last great coal blast furnace. Hopewell had its last blast in 1883, and the rest is history. The National Park Service purchased the property and the buildings you see here now in 1938 so that all can experience what life was like in the 19th century American treasure.